In the early morning of May 19, 1536, the Tower of London was enveloped in an eerie silence, a silence that seemed to mourn what was about to unfold within its ancient walls. The cold stones, which had witnessed centuries of power, betrayal, and bloodshed, now prepared to witness the fall of the Queen. Not just any queen, but Anne Boleyn, the second wife of King Henry VIII, a woman whose intelligence, charm, and audacity had once captivated the heart of a king and reshaped the very foundations of England. Anne Boleyn's story is often told in fragments. Tales of her rise, her charm, her dramatic execution, but the reality of her punishment and the depths of her suffering were far more harrowing than the history books usually reveal. To understand the magnitude of her fate, one must first appreciate the meteoric rise of Anne Boleyn. Born into the ambitious Boleyn family, and spent her formative years in the royal courts of Europe, where she was educated in languages, music, and the intricate art of diplomacy. She was elegant, witty, and intelligent, traits that made her irresistible in a world where charm and intellect were as dangerous as swords. When she returned to England and entered the court of Henry VIII, and was no ordinary courtier, she was a spark that threatened to ignite a storm. Henry, already married to Catherine of Aragon, found himself utterly captivated, unlike the women who had come before her, and refused to become the king's mistress, demanding instead what few women dared to seek, the crown itself. This boldness sparked a chain of events that would shake the monarchy to its core. Henry broke from the Catholic Church, defying the Pope, establishing the Church of England solely to annul his marriage to Catherine and Mary Anne. Her influence and the king's obsession were unparalleled. For a time, it seemed and had triumphed, becoming Queen of England, adorned in finery and celebrated by the court. She bore a daughter, Elizabeth, who would one day rise to become one of England's most iconic rulers. Yet the shadow of misfortune loomed over Anne. England demanded a male heir, and when Anne suffered miscarriages, the king's affection began to wane. Courtiers who had once courted her favor now whispered betrayal, plotting her downfall. By 1536, Anne's enemies had closed in, including Henry's new interest, Jane Seymour. Then came the charges that would seal her fate: adultery, incest, and high treason. Her own brother, George Boleyn, was accused of sleeping with her, while 5 other men were alleged to have been her lovers. In an era where accusation was often indistinguishable from guilt, these claims were sufficient to condemn her, and was imprisoned in the Tower of London, the very same place where she had once celebrated her coronation. The Tower, a fortress and a prison, became the stage for her final days. Inside its walls, Anne's composure amazed those who witnessed her. She was reported to be calm, even cheerful. Yet beneath the surface, fear and heartbreak must have been constant companions. She was forced to endure the executions of those accused alongside her. The sound of the axe a grim reminder that her own life was on the line. Henry, having once been madly in love with Anne, now sought to humiliate her while maintaining the appearance of mercy. He arranged for her execution to be carried out by a French swordsman, a method considered more humane than the traditional English axe. Yet the ritual itself was designed to degrade and terrify. On the morning of May 19th, Anne donned a gray gown with a crimson petticoat, symbolic of martyrdom and sacrifice. Her ladies-in-waiting wept as they assisted her, aware that this would be the last time they saw their queen alive. As she stepped onto the scaffold on Tower Green, the crowd that had gathered fell silent. All eyes were fixed on Anne Boleyn, the queen who had once commanded the adoration of the court and the heart of a king. Kneeling on the cold wooden planks and composed herself, her hands folded in prayer, embodying dignity in the face of unimaginable fear. She addressed the onlookers, her voice calm and unwavering, beseeching God's mercy for herself and blessings upon the king she once loved. "Good Christian people," she began, "I am come hither to die, according to law, for by the law I am judged to die. I pray God save the king and send him long to reign over you, for a gentler nor more merciful prince was there never." Even in her final moments, and displayed remarkable grace, forgiving the man who had orchestrated her death. She removed her headdress, arranging her hair under a white cap, and allowed her ladies to bind a blindfold over her eyes. Her whispered prayer, "To Jesus Christ I commend my soul. Lord, have mercy on me," marked the final testament of a woman who faced death with courage and unwavering faith. The French swordsman, silent and precise, raised his blade and in a single, swift stroke ended her life. The execution was brief, yet the horror of her final hours, the anticipation, the isolation, the orchestrated spectacle, left a permanent mark on history. Her body, without ceremony or honor, was placed in an unadorned arrow chest and buried beneath the floor of the chapel of St. Peter ad Vincula within the tower, a stark contrast to the splendor she had once known. Henry married Jane Seymour just 11 days later, the court rejoicing as though its existence had been erased. Yet her legacy endured. Her daughter Elizabeth would ascend to the throne and demonstrate that Anne Boleyn's influence could not be extinguished, even in death. History, however, often overlooks the depth of Anne's suffering. The charges against her were likely fabricated, orchestrated by Thomas Cromwell to satisfy the political and personal desires of Henry VIII. Anne's crimes were a pretext, a method to justify the removal of a queen who no longer served the king's purposes. Her punishment was not merely the execution itself, but the complete stripping of her dignity, the systematic erasure of her identity, and the public spectacle of her downfall. Anne Boleyn's story is more than a tale of a queen executed for treason. It is a narrative of courage, resilience, and the brutal realities of power in Tudor England. Her life and death reveal the perilous intersection of love, ambition, and authority, where a single misstep, or even mere perception, could lead a fall from the highest throne to the cold floor of the tower. Today, Anne Boleyn is remembered not only as a historical figure, but as a symbol of resistance and intelligence in the face of oppression. Visitors to the Tower of London leave flowers and tokens at the site of her grave, acknowledging her enduring influence on history and the crown that she once aspired to rule. The tragedy of Anne Boleyn lies not only in her death, but in the cruelty of the system that allowed a king to manipulate the law, orchestrate false charges, and remove a queen in a manner that combined humiliation, fear, and finality. Her punishment, carefully constructed to convey a message to all, was a chilling display of authority, showing that even queens were not immune to the machinations of power. The echoes of her final day resonate through the centuries, a reminder that history often remembers a victor, but must also honor the courage of those who suffered unjustly. Anne Boleyn's punishment was a calculated act of vengeance masquerading as justice, and yet, despite the brutality of her final hours, her story continues to captivate, inspire, and haunt. She was a queen who dared to love boldly, think freely, and challenge authority, qualities that ensured her place in history long after the scaffold claimed her body. Her legacy, immortalized through her daughter and the countless stories that recount her intelligence and strength, serves as a powerful testament to a life lived with audacity and a death endured with remarkable courage. Though the Tower of London may now stand as a tourist site, the memory of Anne Boleyn lingers, her presence felt in every stone and shadow, reminding us that the punishment she endured was far worse than one could ever imagine, a chilling portrait of ambition, betrayal, and the inexorable cruelty of power. History remembers the kings by their crowns, but queens like Anne Boleyn are remembered for their courage, resilience, and the indelible mark they leave on the world. Her story, told with every retelling, serves as a reminder that even in the face of insurmountable odds, dignity, intelligence, and bravery endure, transcending the horrors of a single tragic day, ensuring that Anne Boleyn's spirit will forever command the respect and admiration of those who seek to understand the human stories behind history's grand events.